Hello, and welcome to Why Do You, podcast designed to explore the inner motivation behind why it is you do whatever it is you do. Why do you? On today's episode, I talked to one of my newest close friends, Riki Lavi. Riki came into my life about 4 years ago, as the two of us were in Panama receiving adult stem cell therapy. She's an amazing musician, occupational therapist, and overall enthusiast for life. I always feel so much better every time I finish talking with her. Join us as we again discuss why it is we do what it is we do. Okay, well, it's official now. We're gonna begin, Riki.
Yes.
There we go. Is it going, Blake? Okay, officially, we just started after lots of technical difficulties.
Now I can't hear you if you're talking to me.
You can't hear me at all.
I can't hear you.
Gosh. Nothing still. Nothing. What about now? There.
Oh, there we go. Oh, wait, there. I hear you. I got you. I got you.
Do you still do?
Yeah, I got
Okay.
you.
Okay, this is definitely.
My volume was down.
I think that this is 7 or 8 episodes in, and this is probably by far the most technical difficulties we've ever had.
I'm sorry. It's because of me.
No, it's not you. But either way, it's good to see you, and I'm glad we're talking. I remember talking to you about doing this in December, and there's been a few people that have kind of like pushed me closer and closer to the edge of doing it. I think you were the final one that gave that push of encouragement, so I appreciate it.
I feel like it was always in you. I feel like it could have been anyone. I was just the last in line.
No, but and so then to kind of parlay that into what I even wanted to talk to you about, it's kind of like just about being pushed, period. It's kind of like our history period is we just met in Panama. We were both down there getting treated at the Stem Cell Institute in Panama. And you're one of those people that I remember just meeting and knowing there's just some sort of serendipity in our meeting, and somehow we're going to just continue a road together, which I don't know. I don't know if you felt that way exactly, but
100%. As soon
I
as I saw
really
you
did.
guys.
Yeah, like, and yeah, Blake said it's romantic, but there's so many people in my life that's happened to, but I don't know. I just think that's a quality that we need to, just as people recognize more, that uh, be very open and conscious of these people that are put in our lives for reasons, and to try and remember that and not take advantage of it, but just like not take it for granted, basically.
Or take advantage of it in all the
Or
best
take
ways.
Well, yeah, but
Why not, you know?
So then I guess if I was to say what I took advantage of was that was like an extremely uh, big point in my life where I had just started having to rely on a breathing machine, and I had just like a year or two prior stopped being able to play the keyboard. I stopped being able to sing my own songs, and it was kind of like music was such an important part of my life. I was like going to continue it, and you're one of those people that right upon meeting you just were like, here, I'm going to lend my voice to you, and whatever you want to do with it. And it's been just another push to keep music in my life, and also show just the kind of um, goodwill that people just generally could have towards people, and lending them their talents and pieces of themselves. And I don't know, not trying to boost you up too much, but
No, I was gonna say to knock myself down a little bit. I
No, I
have to,
mean,
to make me seem less angelic, although I did lend myself and love, you know, giving people my voice in whatever way they want to use it, it's not altruistic entirely. In fact, most of it is not, because for me, similarly to you, using my musical expression, singing,
yeah.
it's something that's so deeply important to my existence. Really, it's one of the my major mediums. How do I give love? How do I show love? How do I express who I am? So it's
Hmm.
definitely wasn't just for you. It was just as much for me as it was for you.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think it's important that we recognize those fires that are inside us, you know? It can't sound so egoic, but I remember sitting in the autumn with you when you told when I explained to you that I was a musician, blah blah. And one thing I thought that was so cool about you was you had this confidence and not you were like, I know people probably say they could sing, but I really can't sing, Ryan. Like, and I
I
remember just
remember.
thinking like
I
that's
remember.
so confident, and I like had no doubt you were telling me the truth when you said that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've met some amazing people who kind of they say, "Yeah, I love singing," or "I have a talent for singing," and I'm like, "Cool, let me," and then I hear them, and it's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so
exactly.
glad you're doing that. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you're singing."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
that's funny. I didn't
everybody
remember
should.
that.
Yeah, I remember really kind of like having a mental check of like I believe her and I'm sure this will be something amazing.
Beautiful.
But
Beautiful.
yeah, like so the last time I talked to the last guy I had on, one thing we talked about that was so cool and I thought about when we would have our discussion is when I go to that institute, this stem cell institute, one thing that's special in everyone you meet there is every single person that you meet that is going there, they're wanting to continue and improve their health. And there's something just so cool about that experience that I've gone through with that is that you do make a decision. There's a decision when you go somewhere like that or go to the gym or whatever, you're making a decision to that you enjoy life and you want to uh, improve it and keep going and
Optimize the quality of it.
yeah and like not to I mean I was given the most the the craziest opportunity of my life when I was given the chance to go and be treated with stem cells and be the first person with Duchenne to do that in the world. And I remember it just didn't even seem like a choice. It seemed like just a no-brainer. But when I look back, the more people that have expressed to me how brave I was or whatever for doing it, and I don't believe there's any bravery to it. But the one thing I do have taken stock in is that I'm glad to now know that it's at the time it did seem like a no-brainer, but the choice to continue living and to continue to be able to pursue it is something that I've really taken to heart and taken had to rethink about. I guess the big grand scheme is why I wanted to continue, and music's a big part of that, but friendships and also these serendipitous meetings, like meeting with you and just all. I mean, I don't know. When I started all this when I was 22 and I'm 36 now.
Yeah.
And I just think about all the life that I've lived since.
Yeah.
And I swell with emotion thinking that wouldn't have happened. That I wouldn't have been able to continue and be a part of this second chance I've been given. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm yeah.
It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. And another something that you said that really resonated with me was, when I think on I think in a couple different ways, what drives people to want to go on and what drives people to want to kind of capture life
Hmm.
by the reins and
Yeah.
go. And there's two things I think when I really, really kind of break it down. One, I think human beings have this beautiful, innate, subconscious desire to thrive. Even
Yeah.
if it's really, really hard to dig down and find it, it's there. And so I think every cell of our being wants to continue, wants to adapt, wants to grow, wants to move forward. So I think that we have that beautiful subconscious piece that's working for us. And sometimes, like I said, we have to dig for it. Either we have to
Hmm.
dig for it because we want to, or something dark, challenging, painful, a struggle causes us to need to find it, or it just helps that need to live reveal itself with even more power. So
Yeah.
that subconscious element is something that I've been thinking about a lot since we had that last conversation. And the other thing tying in with like these serendipitous meetings is the curiosity of it all. That's
Yeah.
something. The curiosity of it all is what really, really, for me, that's the number one. The Even if it's painful or even if it's dark, if it's joyful, if it's beautiful, if it brings awe, if it's boring, all of those qualities have a curiosity within that if we look at it from that perspective, it's an opportunity for enjoyment and growth, no
Hmm.
matter, whether it's comfortable or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that
What
curiosity.
speaking of like darkness, and you've grown up with it, so it seems so it's part of your history and stuff, but you are the first person I've ever met that had family that were Holocaust survivors.
Holocaust survivors. Yeah.
I mean, I remember being blown away because, I've never known a single person in my that I've ever met that actually had a family in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sure that resonates just whether you think
Moving
about
forward.
it. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
just
Yes.
that idea of going forward and just survival in general. I remember, obviously, it's an extremely touchy subject, but you opened up the first time I met you about that, and
Yeah.
it hit me.
It.
Or go
Yeah.
on, Ricky. Sorry.
No. Yeah. No. I was just gonna say, just to add to you, is that uh, I think that speaks to the innate and subconscious drive to live that some people have in them because. My grandparents that were Holocaust survivors, they weren't having these very conscious conversations that we have now about growth, about healing. That was a different time when things were a little bit more black and white in terms
Hmm.
of the comforts in life or the lack thereof. People were just made of different stuff and they were having different kinds of conversations and there was many different priorities. And today as humans, I think we're lucky. It's a luxury to be able to kind of explore the breadth of human existence with such depth and for doing it, everything from mindfulness to conscious parenting to all of these things. Before, there wasn't really the room or the space to have those conversations. And if they were having those conversations, they were like philosophers that were writing novels and,
For sure.
writing prose. So the Holocaust survivor blood in me, and when I think about my grandparents that survived, it's really, I think about that innate, strong, gritty will of every cell in the body to thrive. This is actually a strange analogy, kind of like a fungus, like a mushrooms.
Yeah.
Fungus is one of, so they will seek to find the opening to breathe, to live, to procreate, to nurture themselves and
Hmm.
continue to grow. Not to liken my Holocaust survivor grandparents to
No,
mushrooms, but
I understand it. Yeah.
it's one of the most ancient and adaptable species this earth has to offer. So I think it's actually a quite interesting analogy,
Mm.
and all of us have that in us, I think.
Yeah. I definitely agree, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
So have you gone over there at all and seen like
Yeah,
you have?
definitely. Yeah. Well, I
Okay.
lived in Israel for a while, and then before my grandfather passed away, um, insisted that my sister and brother and I go and visit the concentration camp that he was at,
And
and
which
we
one was
did.
it?
Dachau in
Okay,
Germany.
yeah.
And my grandmother was in Auschwitz, but I didn't have the chance to meet her. She passed away
Oh.
before we were born. But she, she made it to Israel after the war and everything. But yeah, I was definitely as a child super 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 curious. Again, here comes this curiosity back. Out of the three of my brother and sister and I, the most asked my grandparents the most questions about their past. Um, because the story, the narrative, the was just so interesting to me. I think just how the narrative, the stories, and that you're asking on this podcast about what is it that drives people. I have a
Yeah.
similar curiosity, and so when I meet people that have those beautiful stories of survival, I want to know what
Yeah.
I also like. What is
What
what's
drives
in
us?
you? What's
Yeah.
in you? What
Yeah.
are you made of?
Yeah, it's not just like what drives you, it's to me it's why. Like it's just so interesting. Like
Yeah.
uh
Is
why
music your main why? By the way,
yeah,
is
it
mute?
really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I love my friends, I love my family, but like not one thing that's just come up recently too, like the more when my health has declined, it's people are surprised that I don't just lay in bed more, like because of seating pain or back pain. I'm like, it just doesn't even seem to me a question that I would think like, why would I stay in bed? Like it just
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. Yeah.
Something that I just thought of in terms of why is it that music is your why? Like I feel like there's this um, almost like a knee jerk reaction to need to apologize for friends and family not being your major why.
I mean, yeah,
But
that's
it's not
why.
like music is your expression. Music is
Yeah,
your fingerprint on this earth.
but
So yes, your friends and your family are too, your relationships are beautiful, but that's you, you know? The
yeah,
music
but
is you.
it's also been something that's been a key in a lot of my friendships, though. Like
Yes.
it's kind of the dance, if you will, that I'm able to do
Yes.
with people.
Yeah.
So many of my friends, I've taken stock in thinking like, uh, what has maintained this friendship, and
Right.
music's been the big part in a lot
The
of
number
that
one.
is yeah, just being able to collaborate that way.
To language, right? When you think about it,
Yeah,
it's just it could be one of the what's that book, The Five Love Languages. Music can be the sixth love
yeah.
language, you
Men are
know?
from Mars, women are from Venus. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what planet music is, but
It's its own universe, brah. It's its
well,
own
and
universe.
you keep bringing up the word curiosity, and
Yes.
that's one of the big parts in wanting to get up and even do it is there's that curiosity of what is going to come next. Like just last night, I created a song kind of out of nowhere with a new friend that I just met, and it was within an hour we had this thing that before didn't exist, and I think that's the part that makes me that brings me so much joy is like
From bringing something into existence, you mean?
yes, like very much
Yes.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't intend to probably ever birth a kid, but to me it's the kind of the closest thing is
It is 100%.
yeah.
100%. I was actually going to say that it is like having a child, to bring something
But
a
now do you feel
creation.
guilty saying that as a
Absolutely
parent?
not. No way. Are you kidding? No. 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 No.
Comparing your child to just
Nope.
yeah.
Nope. Because in the end, this is going to get super spiritual, or however you want to call it. In
Okay.
the end, music, if bringing a beautiful, amazing person into the world has the potential to change the world for the better.
Yeah,
Bringing a
exactly.
beautiful piece of art or a beautiful piece of music also has a potential to change the world for the better,
Hmm.
directly, indirectly, however you, when you birth something beautiful, something positive, something real, whether whether it's tangible, whether it's intangible, you are doing the world a service.
Yeah,
You know, it's
I hope
it's
so.
it's yes,
Yeah,
especially, if you do it with love, as you do, you're not just farting things left and right. I mean, we do, when we are making music, sometimes like it ends up, you're just exploring, but
yeah,
you do it with love and intention. Same thing with parenting. If you are very intentional about bringing a good person, it's a goal when you bring a person into the world for this person to be a good person. You're doing good. You're doing good. You
yeah.
know.
I completely
You do.
agree.
And going back to children, by the way, just briefly, I think we can all learn in terms of going back to the curiosity conversation. I think looking at how children behave is an incredible reminder
Yeah,
to how far curiosity can take you, how much it can bring you.
yeah. It's hard for me to like I have a niece and nephews now, and some of my really close friends are having kids. And it's so crazy for me to think about parents that can have kids and not be enamored by that curiosity. Like if that was if today had a a subject and just a theme in general, I think curiosity would be it that we
Yeah,
keep
that's the one. That's
touching
the one.
upon, and that curiosity from children is something that if you're not paying attention to it, you're not learning from. I
You're
think
missing out.
yeah, you're completely missing the point of what it means to learn from a child because yeah, that's the ultimate thing I've learned, at least in
Yeah.
my relationships with my little niece and nephews, is it's seeing their curiosity of the world and trying to take it in and keep learning. I mean, how old are you, Ricky?
35.
Yeah, I just turned 36, and like
Yeah.
it's completely ignorant to think that there's not so much more to learn. Like,
Oh, yeah. There is. There is. Definitely. But, you know, I think that doesn't have to give anyone FOMO. Like, if they feel like this is it, you know what I mean? Like, it's about, rather than making the conversation go towards, I'm only 36 and there's so much more to learn. I think rather to be, and this is where mindfulness comes in, rather to use every moment, every year, every month, every week, every second, every minute, using those moments and noticing the universe of curious opportunities within that time frame.
yeah,
I get a little ahead of myself sometimes. Like, I'm 35. I've lived a lot of life. I've been married, had a child, been divorced, and I'm going into a new beautiful relationship as well, starting businesses, uh, dissolving businesses, starting new businesses, dissolving. But and yet, so I can be like, look, I've got all of this time to like learn other things, but then that can end up making you complacent. Oh, I've got time. Oh, I've got time. Which is why I think it's important to ask these deep questions and to be super, super astute to all of the opportunities to learn, all of these beautiful, curious, serendipitous moments that you become an old wise man every minute.
yeah. I completely agree.
I like see this like old man with like a long beard, like kind of in this like in the like a Buddha position,
Yeah,
Um, something else about children and curiosity. We kind of like the sad part about that is, I think the way many of us live, we kind of I don't want to say beat it out of them, but we end up like society, how things are going. We end up, unfortunately, what's the word that I'm looking for? We end up pulling out the curiosity from our kids. We want to push them in line, like how we live as adults. Like,
yeah,
don't sit like that. You should sit, like you should sit like this. Don't chew with your mouth open. You should chew with, don't use your hands for that. Don't touch that. Don't sit there. Don't go over there. And like we are kind of methodically and subconsciously and without even knowing it sometimes pushing our kids like into this more narrow lane of what is the right way to exist.
Yeah.
So as a parent and then having conversations like this to remind me and to remind other people, let your kid, as long as it's safe, to let your child have that breadth of play, of experiences, to
Yeah.
keep their curiosity sharp, to keep their
Yeah.
ability to adapt sharp. They're going to be our innovators, you know? And that's another thing. Like, what you innovate is your baby. What you create is your baby. Music is your baby. You bring that into the world.
Mhm.
As adults that want to have children, the child bringing them in, they're our creation. Of course, they go off and have their own life, and that's beautiful to see. But and
Yeah.
music too. You see, people will interpret your music. You know, you birth pieces of music, you birth an album, and then you'll see people having conversations about each of your pieces of music and coming at it from such a different perspective, having conversations that you would never even dream people would have in conversations about. Just also like visual art, you know.
Yeah. One thing.
One person sees something abstract, one person sees something very literal, one person sees people making love in a photo in a picture, and the other person sees someone eating fruit. Like, it's all,
Yeah.
interpretation.
That could be Freudian too.
Very frightening.
Yeah. One thing that came to mind when you were talking about that. One of my good friends was talking about his son is like 6, and he's just. I was like, what do you tell him when he asks about God, like God and stuff? Like, how are you gonna handle that? And he said he's already dealt with it. He was like, he just reverses the question back and says, like, what do you think God is?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just right away telling what you think, what he needs to hear your interpretation, anyways.
Right, right,
He just asks, like, what do you think God is? And
right.
concepts like that really are abstract, like, trying to figure out their mind and stuff. Like, I'm guessing that's kind of the same thing we're talking about.
100%. It is.
Yeah.
You giving them the leeway, giving them the right of way, not just the leeway, but and giving them the space to think in their own terms, to
Yeah.
feel in their own terms. I actually just, when it was a song, there's a movement teacher. His name is David something with a G. Anyway, a movement teacher. I listened to his podcast. I took a couple of his courses, online courses, and he put a song on one of the movement playlists that he made, and it said, "People think too much and feel too little."
That's interesting.
People think too much and feel too little.
Yeah.
And again, that made me think about children as well. Like, if we stopped using like our logical brains so much, and instead opened our perception to feeling and to
Yeah.
exploring, man, things would look really different today.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
I just in the way we were talking about uh, flipping it on your children and asking them their thoughts and feelings. One thing I am optimistic about, I think that our generation is becoming more open to that kind of
They are.
thing. And I really think, I don't know, there's this thing that every generation does where they have to think that the generations before were so much
Are
better, you
better.
know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I was gonna
Make
say, like,
we
it's like rite
always
of
have to,
passage. Yeah. Why do
but
we suck?
I really think that's a pessimistic way of
It's
looking
true.
at it and thinking that they all had it right. We just innately are gonna have it wrong. Like, I don't know.
I think no. What you're saying, make I see that totally, and I think it is actually our responsibility, Ryan, to
Mhm.
ask how we can improve.
For
And
sure.
so rather to frame it like that, as opposed to this is why we suck and the generations before were better, but if we instead look in the mirror and say, we are an amazing generation filled with
Yeah,
love, lots of curiosity, trying to figure it out. There's a lot of challenge. What can we do better? What can we learn from them back there? And how can we provide the next ones with what
mhm,
we learned? How can we infuse those lessons into the next generation?
for sure.
Um, And a lot of the times when you're in it, like in our generation, and things feel weird, I think that the challenge of what you're dealing with now can sometimes be misread for we suck, as opposed to this is the challenge of our generation, and
Exactly, yeah.
how do we overcome it? How do we overcome those challenges with awareness, and then how do we make sure that our kids, we pass the lessons to them?
Mhm.
But I do love us. I do love us.
Yeah, like,
I,
at what point, even if it was better, at what point would we really say, "Okay, America is great again"?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what day is that actually going to wake up and say, "Okay, we finally hit that point"? I feel
right.
like, I don't know, it's just
We should,
trickery.
if we as people, I mean, I think it's a nice gesture to think about it that way. But if we as people know that the work is never done,
Yeah.
personally, then why would we put that kind of pressure, on on our country to be good again,
Mhm.
to get to that point?
Yeah.
Rather, it's like, let's be, what should the phrase have been? Let's be on the let's be on the path to self reliance again. Let's be on the path to improvement again.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I really do believe, which is why it's so beautiful that we're having this conversation. I do believe, even though I'm not really big on politics and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I don't, I just try. I don't know. I shouldn't stay away from it, but I sometimes get a little bit overwhelmed by all the
Oh,
narratives of what's
I
happening.
steer away completely.
But what I will say is, I do believe in my heart of hearts that it's an individual journey that we need to take as well. That's as important as a society. That the health of the society really does come from the individual, and then the family. So it starts here.
Yeah.
um, do you as a human, is it important for you to learn how to be reliant, to learn how to love yourself, to know how to be aware, to know how to be a better person, to want to always become the best version of yourself? If every human did that, and then in community, and then in the larger community, and then in country, and then in world, sorry to sound like Miss America, but that would be like world peace,
No, yeah.
so it's really up to us, I think, individually, and that will go. I think that would go a lot further than what people think, and that isn't me detracting from the importance of political, country, diplomacy, all of those
The
things, and how we
collective.
are the
Yeah.
collective. Thank you. That's a good word, but
Yeah.
they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And
For
that's
sure.
another thing to add to to curiosity as being the main drive
Theme.
in our conversation. Curiosity is definitely the main theme, but also another thing that drives me, that keeps me going, is this journey of
Mhm.
self improvement, of optimization, of becoming the best version of myself I possibly can.
Yeah.
Just basically to make the world a better place. I know that's very broad, but why not? Why not? We're a world of however many billion people we are now. So if it's a goal of mine to wake up in the morning and be the best version of myself as just one of these humans around on this planet, like, I think it's a perfectly valid goal. Valid reason to want to wake up in the morning and do good things and make music and be a good parent and be a good therapist.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, we never really identified, but yeah, that's your occupation, correct?
Yeah. hmm
Yep.
I've got many different occupations. I'm an
Well,
occupational therapist, and I'm a doula, and I'm an infant sleep specialist. So all of those tie in together beautifully, and what it ends up looking like is this amazing network, I realize, of skills that I've developed that have allowed me to keep myself sharp in my journey towards self improvement, and also to help people, and specifically new parents, feel empowered and confident in bringing their children into the world and raising good children.
yeah. Yeah. And a big, maybe the most important thing they ever do is to pass that along. Mm.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky, I think I accomplished with you what exactly what I was hoping to do, which is
Yay.
kind of this big, broad existential dissection. But one thing that I also love about you is you don't have any qualms and insecurities about the big give peace a chance flag that you kind of always wave, and that's what I
Right.
really enjoy about you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. You're amazing, Ryan. I know you get this a lot, but you're a real inspiration. You're
Well,
inspiring, and the main reason why you're inspiration, at least to me, is because you hold people accountable to asking important questions.
yeah.
You
Well,
know, through your music, you know, through these kinds of conversations and relationships. Um, and I love that about you.
yeah. I mean, I really appreciate you saying that, but I feel the same way about you and all these other important people in my life. And yeah, accountability is something it's really cool. Like I think it can seem kind of invasive, but I try to keep a lot of my friends that are artists even accountable because it's like it does feel pushy, but it's also like yeah, I see so much fire in people, and I know that that's the most important thing in their life is that fire. And I
Mm-hmm.
try to, I don't know, get people to understand that more because I think that's also one of the most important things in life
I
is to
think that's what we're doing here.
yeah, encourage other people in their passions and pursuits because that's what we're here for.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ryan, for including me
No,
in
yeah.
this journey and including me in this project.
Thank you, Ricky, and I'm glad we
Yeah.
were able to talk today. I'm glad we've kept up our friendship and our collaborations, and I just really
To more,
appreciate
to
it.
many more, to many
Yeah,
more.
I hope so too, and
Hmm.
hopefully someday you hop on an airplane and get to
I
Wichita
know.
too.
I know.
Be really
Maybe when
cool.
it gets warmer. When it gets
Yeah,
warmer.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You haven't identified this
It'll
either, but you
happen.
live in. Is it L.A.?
Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
LA.
that's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
The smog capital.
Yes. Yes. There's some beautiful parts. There's some really beautiful parts. But yeah, I'll make that happen, Ryan, for sure. I
Yep.
will.
Well, good to talk to you, Ricky. I'm glad we
Good to
finally
speak
got
with
this
you.
to work.
Yes. Same.
Okay, well,
All
we're
right.
gonna end it.
Talk
Thank you,
soon.
Ricky. Yep,
Talk to you soon.
yep. Talk to you soon, too, Ricky. Today's episode of Why Do You is brought to you in part by Xcode Marketing. Special thanks to Taylor Martin for designing our logo, Old Dog Trey for composing our podcast theme, and providing additional technical assistance. My brother Blake for helping me get this podcast up and off the ground. Thanks for tuning in for today's episode. Stay posted for updates. I'm your host, Ryan Benton. Until next time, keep doing whatever it is you do.